Good day. Welcome back to another week of Talking Technical, and I must talk about Orion. I know we've talked about this share many a time, and every time that the chart just looks promising, it's almost like when it jumps out of a big band, then suddenly there's a massive seller. And once again this week, and that's why I want to show it to you, we've got a massive spike in volume. Now, if we look at it, last week, if you look on Thursday, you will see there's a massive spike in volume. You can see somebody was very, very keen to buy the share all the way up from 21 cents, and the share closed at 23 cents. But just 2 days after that, suddenly the share is losing momentum again, and it's going back, and it's now trading at around 22 cents. Well, there's one thing for sure. We know over time that if you see a spike in volume, somebody is going to be right and somebody is going to be horribly wrong. Now, I'm looking at the stochastic here, and the reason why I want to show it to you as well is to say, remember a stochastic in a very illiquid share, which trade in these tiny bands of 1 and 2 cents, is usually not the best indicator to use. But when you see a spike in volume, suddenly it will definitely call for something to watch out for. But for me, it is quite simple. We know that Orion is a mine that is still in development. That means that we are not yet in production there. So yes, they haven't got proper figures that they can work on. But when you see somebody that is buying so many shares, suddenly you must take note of it. But of course, what is the story? The story is, if you take the low of that candle, and strange enough, that was a previous low that's been tested quite a few times, and that low sits at 21 cents. This buyer of this massive lot of shares will be very disappointed if the share starts to move below 21 cents. But on the other hand, there's your 50-day moving average. If the share can, and I'm going to use that resistance, there you are. There's the resistance, and there's another resistance there that I want to point out. Let's have a look there. And there's another resistance at the top. If you look at that, there you are. If the share can start to close above 24, that was just the day before yesterday's high, then suddenly this buyer will feel a little bit happy. But he will maybe sell because he's got a 1 or 2 cents profit and he's keen to lock in profits. But think about it. If the share starts to consolidate above 25 cents, that's the 50-day moving average, then suddenly you will see that some medium-term investors will say, not a bad share. Maybe I must also nibble in it. And then this buyer of the shares will not be keen to sell. On the other hand, if it even moves a little bit higher to 25 cents, what will you see? Same scenario. The buyer will feel that he bought the right investment and he will hold on to it. It's the same if you buy a house. You buy a house for R1 million, somebody comes and he offers you 1.1 million, you don't sell it, you're happy with your purchase. Within a month or 3 or 5 months after that, somebody offers you 1.5 million, then you will not sell. You will hold on and you will say, maybe I can get a little bit higher. Now, that's exactly the case with a share where you see a spike in volume. The other big resistance, of course, is waiting at 29 cents. And for me, if I zoom out a little bit, for me, I will say that if the share can take out this high, and that is 33 cents, we can assume that the share has worked on this massive formation for a very long time, a consolidation, sorry, not a formation, a consolidation for a very long time. And the share, if it breaks above 29 cents, do you think that this buyer of this massive volume of shares will then be keen to sell? I doubt it. So for us, it's a time to be patient. If you do buy the share, it's quite simple. The stop loss is sitting at 21 cents. But I always say, if you buy a share that's still, or a company that's still in the exploration phase, You must have a lot of patience. You mustn't buy a lot at a time, and you must just wait because the share can maybe keep you busy for a long time. But we do know that the copper in the world is in a deficit. And South Africa, we know the amount of copper that they steal. One day when they need to replace it, you can be surprised that they will buy copper, and they will buy copper from companies like Orion that will maybe give you a very good upside. But of course, let's stick to the basics. Let's stick to the candles. Let's stick to the technical charts. The first big one is this 25 cents. That is that 50-day moving average, and above that, we will maybe see some glimpse of strength. Let's look at another request. Excuse me. And that is Vodacom. Now, if you look at Vodacom, remember, this is a service utility. This is one of the companies that in South Africa, you can almost say did very well in the past. They paid reasonable good dividends, but most of it was a share that gave you growth on your capital. But if I look at this company, there's definitely the momentum is down. And it makes me a little bit worried because we are close to that 100 Rand level. And I've seen before that if a share is so close to 100 Rand, it probably go and meet 100 Rand. The same thing, if a share goes up and it's, let's say, close to 100 Rand, it will probably go up and test 100 Rand because it's such a big psychological level. But let's have a look at Vodacom. Vodacom, of course, most of the companies and in that phase now, like MTN, they are more dividend payers. The South Africa is almost, you can say, flooded with cell phones. There's a lot of subscribers. Some of these companies expands abroad and spread their wings. But the big thing is almost now a service utility. And what will that tell you? That mostly it's a company that will rather pay you good dividends out of the profit they make. But for me, look at this. It's almost an ascending channel. You can say it is a falling wedge, but I think it's going the way that it's going to be an ascending channel because look at the width of these support and resistance lines. But for me, this candle tells you that it is a gravestone doji, but I will say because of this real body, it's a little bit big. Now this real body here tells you that it's a teardrop. And that tells me, a teardrop candle tells me that it can still go a little bit lower. And look at your stochastic. Stochastic sits at 25. And while we've got the volume on here, there's not really a big spike in volume. And what's one of the issues here is for me that Vodacom must probably first get above this little line to tell me the first sign of technical strength. That will be there. Let's have a look. That little line there. And that will be above 103.52. We will see the first sign of strength. Why? You can see there's a little tiny little shadow there. And what you see there, there's a few shadows that protected that level. And the bulls lost that line. So we need to get above 103.52 to move up. And for me, this channel needs to break. And that break of that channel will only take place at 106.27. Above 106.27, we can see that the chart will give us a nice bullish signal. Why? Because it breaks out of a trend. You must always remember, if it's a downtrend and the trend line breaks or the resistance line turns into a support, suddenly there will be quite a few buyers that say, I pick up that the trend to the downside has been broken, and then we can see a bounce to the top. So yes, you can either nibble there above 103.52, use your stop loss. I will say 99.90, just below that 100 Rand, because you can easily go to 100 Rand. Or you wait patiently for this line to turn into a support. Make use of a stop loss of 103.52. And what's your targets? Your targets will be 107.46 and then 108.58. And of course, this 50-day moving average is a resistance. That will be a target 109.89, and maybe it can head up to 112.27. And by the way, that is the target of this descending channel. But for me, it's early days. We need for a reversal here. We haven't got a divergence on the stochastic. So patience is maybe going to pay you off quite well. And to finish off the show, somebody asked about the top 40. I must discuss the top 40. We've got a full-time speculation group where you teach and you learn with us to actually trade the 30-minute chart on the Aussie, and that is all focused on the top 40 index. We usually give out a lot of ideas. The average profit of our ideas is between 1,000 and 1,500 points a month. So for us, it's a area of concentration, of total focus. So unfortunately, I will not discuss the top 40. It is a focused index. It's an index that requires a lot of attention and a lot of concentration to actually become successful in it. Well, thank you for watching the show. Sorry for just the two nice shares that we discussed, but it was all proper and good technical training. Enjoy your week and visit our website www.fransdeklerk.com for more info, and as always, we will chat again.